everyone, and welcome back. I'm starting a new series on Java data structures and algorithms interview preparation. Over the next few videos, we will cover many of the most common topics and interview questions you will encounter as a Java backend developer. Today, we are going to focus on arrays and array lists. Let's get started. What is an array? An array is one of the simplest ways to store multiple values in Java. Imagine you are writing a program to store the ages of 5 people. Instead of creating 5 separate variables like this, you can store them all together inside an array. All the values belong to one object. Instead of remembering 5 different variable names, you only remember one variable, ages. Every value has a position, which is called an index. Notice that arrays always start counting from 0, not from 1. Ages 3 returns 18. Think of an apartment building. Apartment 1, apartment 2, apartment 3, etc. If someone tells you to go to apartment 3, you don't need to check every apartment first. You go directly to apartment 3. Arrays work in a similar way. If Java knows the index, it can immediately find the value. That's one of the biggest advantages of arrays. So when would you use an array? Arrays are used when you already know how many values you will store. The size will never change. You need fast access by index. For example, 12 months in a year, 7 days of a week, RGB values of a color. Why would you use an array? You can use an array when you know the number of elements in advance, and that number will not change. Arrays are simple, they are memory efficient, and they allow fast access to elements by their index. What is the difference between an array and an array list? Both arrays and array list store collections of objects. The biggest difference is size. An array has a fixed size. For example, what you see on the screen right now, Java creates space for exactly 3 elements. You cannot add a 4th element. If you decide to add a 4th element, you will get an exception, because index 3 does not exist. An array list works differently. Initially, it contains 0 elements. Now you can keep adding values. Java automatically increases the size when necessary. You do not have to manage the capacity yourself. In the real world, imagine you are building an online shopping application. Will you always know how many products the customers will buy? No, you will not. One customer may buy 1 product, another customer 15 products. Because the number changes, an array list is the best choice here. So when should you use an array and when should you use an array list? An array is best used when elements never change, when the number of elements never change. Array list, on the other hand, data can grow or shrink. For example, in first situation, days of the week, months, chessboard, and in the second situation with array list, users, products, orders, employees, messages, comments, etc. This is why Spring Boot applications almost always use a list. For example, like here on the screen, list users instead of array users, because databases really return a fixed number of rows. Here are the most common operations for array list. Add for adding an element. Remove for removing an element. get for getting an element, set for changing an element, size for finding the number of elements, is empty. It's checking whether ArrayList or array is empty. So why is ArrayList so popular then? Because most applications work with data that changes. For example, customers, employees, products, invoices. None of these have fixed number of items. How to loop through an array list? Looping through an array list means visiting each element one by one. For example, imagine you have a list of users. Now, suppose you want to print every name. There are several ways to do this. You can use enhanced for loop. This is called the enhanced for loop or for each loop. It means for every name inside the list printed, Java automatically takes the first element, then the second, then the third, until it reaches the end. This is the simplest and most readable approach. Then you have traditional for loop. Sometimes you need the index. Here I represents the position of the current element. I equal 0 gets, for example, John. I equal 1 gets, for example, Anna. I equal 2 gets Mike. This approach is useful when you need to know where an element is in the list. For example, you will want to display row numbers, or you will want to compare neighboring elements, or maybe replace values at a specific position. Then we get the for each method. In Java 8, we have this for each method. This produces exactly the same output. You can also write names for each just like that. This uses a lambda expression, which you will see often in modern Java code. So which one should you use then? For the most part, this one here, because it's simple and easy to the for string name in names. Use the traditional for loop only when you need the index. Use for each method mainly when working with strings or functional programming. Can you modify an array list while looping through it? Generally, you cannot. If you remove elements using for each loop, you will usually get concurrent modification exception. If you need to remove elements while iterating, you most likely will want to use iterator. This is the safe way to remove elements during iteration.